This is the Thayer Podcast for Thursday, September 26, 2024. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about God and the value of an abiding faith in Him. For some reason, perhaps it was providence, I came across something on YouTube the other day. On January 17, 1989, Tom Brokaw and President Ronald Reagan sat down for a little chat in front of the NBC cameras. This was way back in the day when there was no such thing as the mainstream media. It was a wonderful interview. One few who saw it will ever forget. At one point, Brokaw asked the president if he believed in prayer. Reagan responded,
"I believe very much in what Abraham Lincoln said when he had this job. He said he couldn't perform the functions, the duties of this job for 15 minutes if he didn't know that he could call upon one who is wiser and stronger than all others."
President Reagan also talked about some things his mom taught him, and then launched into an example of how quickly God can answer prayer.
On the way out, talking all to myself, really, I said, "How do you ever get to be a sports announcer if you can't get a job in a radio station?" And went on down the hall, and pretty soon I heard a clumping. He was very badly crippled with arthritis and had 2 canes. And he was yelling out, "You big so-and-so, wait." And he caught up with me. The elevator wasn't there yet. And he said, "What was that you said about sports?" And I said, "Well, that's what I'd like to be." Well, he said, "You know anything about football?" And I said, "I played it for 8 years." He said, "Could you tell me about a football game, and if I was at home listening to the radio, make me see it?" And I said, "I think so." He took me in a studio, stood me in front of a microphone, and he said, "Now when the red light goes on, I'll be in another room listening. You start broadcasting an imaginary football game." Well, I stood there waiting for the light, and I knew I had to have names, and I remembered the year that previous fall, my senior year, playing in a game, Eureka, when we went 65 yards on the last play for the winning touchdown, and it was the last play of the game. And I knew all our players' names, and I knew enough of the opponents' names that I figured I could do. So I started in the fourth quarter. And I had the long blue shadows settling over the field and the chill wind coming in through the end of the stadium. We didn't have a stadium, we had bleachers. And then I ran a few plays, and finally I came up to the big play, and I had this and did the big play and made the touchdown with only 20 seconds to go and so forth. And then I grabbed the microphone and said, "That's all." He came in and said, "Be here Saturday. I'll give you $5 and car fare. You are broadcasting the Iowa-Minnesota game for us."
Reagan's story amply demonstrates how quickly an innocent question under one's breath can precipitate an almost immediate response from the big kahuna. Bottom line is pretty simple. If you believe in God, if you accept the teachings of John 3:16, God will answer your every prayer. And all you got to do is ask. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Semper Fi.